Chosen one, there is something within you that still waits to be fully expressed. It has never remained unfinished because you lacked effort, courage, or commitment. The truth is much quieter than that. The work that belongs to your deepest purpose has been standing patiently at the edge of your life, watching as you poured your energy into countless responsibilities while its place remained untouched. You have carried burdens for people you love, stepped into situations that needed strength, and offered pieces of yourself wherever you felt needed. Again and again you showed up, solved problems, and held things together for others. Yet beneath all of it, there has been something more personal calling your name, something only you can bring into the world. It has been waiting for the moment you finally turn toward it and say, "I understand now. I see what has been asking for my attention." There is a kind of weariness that comes from living close to your purpose without fully stepping into it. It is different from the exhaustion of failure, because it often appears in people who work hard, give generously, and stay busy. They move from one task to the next, accomplishing many things, yet a quiet emptiness lingers beneath the achievements. Somewhere inside, a gentle question continues to rise. Is this really what I am here for? That question rarely arrives with drama or urgency. It moves softly through the background of your days, surfacing in moments of silence, in pauses between responsibilities, in the spaces where distractions fall away. If that question has been following you, treat it with respect. It is not dissatisfaction for its own sake, and it is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It may be the most honest voice inside you. A true calling rarely demands attention through force. Instead, it returns again and again, appearing in unexpected moments and refusing to disappear completely. It waits with remarkable patience, continuing to surface until you become willing to listen. Over time, what once felt like a passing thought begins to feel like a truth that has been quietly standing beside you all along. Life often leaves clues when something important is asking to be acknowledged. Many people explain those signs away because recognizing them would require a decision, and decisions that change a life can feel costly. Yet what is meant for you does not disappear simply because it is ignored. It settles deeper, becoming a quiet presence that waits for the right moment to be recognized. Perhaps you have noticed how easy it is to begin many things while struggling to give your whole heart to any of them. This does not mean you lack discipline or commitment. Sometimes it means the deepest part of your energy has been reserved for something more aligned with who you truly are. There is a kind of completion that reaches beyond accomplishment, a fulfillment that resonates through your entire being, and it often belongs to the work that was specifically entrusted to you. When that energy is spent in places that do not belong to your deeper purpose, life can begin to feel heavy. It is like pushing against a current that was never meant to carry you in that direction. The strain becomes exhausting, not because you are weak, but because something within you recognizes where its natural flow belongs. The discomfort itself becomes a form of guidance. There may also be moments when guilt rises inside you. Someone asks for your time, your attention, your strength, and although your spirit senses the answer should be different, the familiar response still leaves your lips. You agree, you help, you carry more than your share because you learned long ago that serving others was proof of goodness and purpose. Yet there are seasons when wisdom asks a different question. What if every commitment that pulls you away from your deepest work carries a hidden cost? What if the most meaningful thing available to you right now is not taking on another responsibility, but finally honoring the one that has waited for you all this time? Sometimes the sacred choice is not expansion. Sometimes it is focus. You may already feel this shift happening. Places that once energized you now feel quieter inside. Opportunities that once seemed exciting occasionally feel like interruptions, as though they are drawing you away from a conversation your soul has not finished. Even the relationships you cherish may be encouraging a subtle realignment, gently inviting you back toward what matters most. This is not a withdrawal from love. It is a gathering of your attention around what is essential. It feels as though your life has been slowly arranging itself toward a single direction, and what once seemed vague is becoming harder to ignore. The signal has been there for a long time, but now it carries a clarity that reaches deeper than before. Then come those quiet moments when an image returns to your mind. A project, a dream, a contribution you have carried for years rises to the surface once again. You tell yourself there will be a better time, that more preparation is needed, that certain conditions should fall into place first. Yet, despite every reason to postpone it, the pull remains. Instead of fading, it grows stronger. Instead of disappearing, it keeps finding its way back to you. Deep down, there is already a part of you that recognizes it. There is a knowing that does not need endless explanation. It simply whispers, "This matters. This is the work." The wilderness season many people fear is rarely a punishment. Those long stretches of waiting, uncertainty, preparation, and unfinished longing often carry a purpose that cannot be seen while you are living through them. They shape the person who will eventually carry the assignment. They build strength, patience, perspective, and depth in ways comfort never could. No skilled surgeon enters the operating room without years of preparation. No great structure stands without a foundation hidden beneath the surface. In the same way, the years that felt invisible were building something essential inside you. What looked like delay was often construction happening when no one else could see it. The story of Moses reflects this truth so clearly. Before he ever stood before a nation, before he heard his name called with unmistakable clarity, he spent decades in the wilderness. He walked ordinary paths, carried ordinary responsibilities, and lived through long seasons where the deeper purpose within him seemed unanswered. Yet those years were not taking him away from his calling. They were preparing him for it. The wilderness slowly removed every identity that could not carry the weight of what was ahead. It stripped away personal ambition, false certainty, and plans that belonged to a smaller vision of life. What remained was someone ready to carry something far greater than himself. Sometimes the wilderness is doing the same work in you. It is teaching you to recognize the difference between what you once wanted and what your life has truly been preparing you to become. And when the moment finally arrives, you may discover that the purpose itself never changed. What changed was your readiness to embrace what had been written within you all along. When the moment finally arrived, and Moses understood what he had been prepared for, he was no longer searching for meaning. The purpose had already been living within him for years. What changed was his ability to recognize it and embrace it for what it truly was. The calling itself had never moved. His readiness had finally caught up with it. In many ways, your own journey has been unfolding through the same process. The relationships that stretched you beyond what felt fair were teaching you how to carry compassion without breaking under pressure. The disappointments that left you questioning everything were shaping qualities that could not have been developed any other way. What felt painful in the moment was often preparing strength you would need later. The doors that closed when you believed the timing was perfect may have seemed confusing at first. Looking back, however, you may begin to see that some opportunities arrived before you were fully equipped to carry what they demanded. What felt like rejection was often protection, guiding you away from paths that would have drained you before you were ready for the work that truly belonged to you. Even the setbacks were serving a purpose beyond what you could see at the time. Something is shifting now. You may not have the language for it yet, and you may struggle to explain it to anyone else, but you can feel it. The season of preparation is giving way to a deeper certainty. It arrives quietly, without spectacle, and settles within you with a calm confidence that says, "I am ready to move forward." This kind of readiness is different from perfection. It is not the absence of fear, uncertainty, or unanswered questions. It is the realization that remaining unfinished has become more painful than taking the next step imperfectly. At some point, the desire to honor what was placed inside you becomes stronger than the desire to wait for ideal conditions. Consider everything you carry now that earlier versions of you could not have carried. There is a patience in you that was forged through long seasons of waiting. There is an empathy that emerged from being misunderstood, and a discernment that developed through learning to trust what you sensed internally, even when nobody else could see it. These qualities were not random additions to your story. They were carefully formed through experience. Every lesson, every challenge, and every season contributed something valuable. The wisdom you gained was deposited through real moments, real struggles, and real growth. What once seemed disconnected is beginning to reveal a pattern. The pieces are starting to make sense because they were always building towards something larger. One of the greatest challenges for people carrying a deep sense of purpose is that opposition rarely appears in an obvious form. More often, it arrives disguised as responsibility, urgency, and endless demands on your attention. It takes the shape of worthwhile commitments, meaningful obligations, and the very real needs of people you care about. None of these things are inherently wrong, which is why they can be so difficult to navigate. People who care deeply often find themselves giving endlessly. The compassion becomes so available that it is poured into every request, every problem, and every opportunity to help. Years can pass this way, creating a life that appears full and productive from the outside, while a quiet ache remains beneath the surface. Somewhere within, the deeper work continues waiting for its turn. You are allowed to bring your focus back to what matters most. That does not require becoming distant or abandoning the people you love. It simply means recognizing that your energy has a purpose, and purpose requires direction. A life spent responding to everything can slowly pull you away from the one thing that was entrusted specifically to you. There is a difference between doing good things and doing the thing that is yours to do. Many people can contribute goodness to the world. Your contribution, however, carries a particular shape that belongs to you alone. The work that was placed in your hands cannot be completed by someone standing in your place. Those who eventually fulfill their calling often develop a simple practice. Before the demands of the day begin competing for attention, they return to a single question. Instead of asking what must be completed today, they ask what one step would move the deeper work forward. They look for the action that honors what matters most, even if it seems small. That step may not appear urgent, it may not be the task others expect from you, yet it becomes a quiet declaration that your purpose still holds its rightful place in your life. Every small act of attention tells the deeper calling, I have not forgotten you. I am still choosing you. After asking that question, there is value in becoming still. Beneath the noise of expectations, obligations, and competing voices, a deeper knowing remains present. It has been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the surface. When you slow down enough to listen, it often reveals itself with surprising clarity. Then comes the practice of protecting what matters. The time you give to your deepest work deserves the same respect you would give to a sacred commitment. Rather than offering it whatever energy remains after everything else is finished, you begin giving it your clearest attention. You make space for it before the noise of the day scatters your focus. This is not about productivity or performance. It is about faithfulness to what has been placed inside you. Over time, the effort stops feeling like discipline and begins feeling like alignment. What once required constant forcing begins to feel natural, familiar, and deeply right. Eventually, it feels less like striving and more like returning home. Each day becomes another opportunity to stand in the center of what you were created for, not through dramatic moments or extraordinary breakthroughs, but through steady, consistent choices made in ordinary mornings. And as that clarity grows, you begin to realize there is still another layer to this journey waiting to be understood. Before going any further, hold on to this truth. The signs of unfinished work within your life are not evidence of weakness, failure, or a lack of devotion. They point to something much deeper. They point to the presence of a purpose that has been trying to find its full expression through you. The wilderness season you walked through was never random. Every difficult stretch carried its own meaning, even when you could not see it at the time. The experiences that tested you were shaping specific qualities that your future work would require. What felt like wandering was often preparation happening beneath the surface. The reason the deeper work remained unfinished was never because something was wrong with you. It happened because your energy, compassion, and attention were continually poured into so many worthy places that little remained for the thing that belonged most fully to you. A generous heart often gives itself away long before it learns how to protect what it was created to build. This is why the simple practice of returning matters so much. Returning to the question that points you back toward your purpose. Returning to the space you have set aside for what matters most. Returning even when conditions are imperfect and certainty has not fully arrived. The truth is that clarity does not always come through dramatic revelations. Many people spend years believing something extraordinary must happen before they can trust what they already sense inside themselves. Yet some of the most important realizations arrive quietly, growing stronger through attention rather than spectacle. You may have experienced seasons when life felt heavy and difficult to navigate. Responsibilities multiplied, expectations pulled at you from every direction. Even while accomplishing what needed to be done, there remained a sense that something essential was waiting patiently beneath the surface, asking for its turn. That feeling does not mean you are ungrateful for what you have. It does not mean you are failing to appreciate your life. Often it is simply the recognition that a deeper part of you has not yet been fully honored. The soul recognizes when it is carrying something meaningful that has been postponed for too long. Many people become so accustomed to living with that quiet ache that they stop questioning it. They adapt to the feeling of being partially disconnected from themselves. What once felt temporary becomes familiar, and what is familiar begins to feel normal. Yet somewhere inside, a deeper knowing continues asking whether there is another way to live. If that question continues returning to you, pay attention to it. The persistence of that inner voice is not impatience. It is awareness. It is the part of you that recognizes there is still more life, more expression, and more purpose waiting to be lived. You were never meant to remain in a place where everything begins but nothing reaches completion. You were not created to spend your years moving from one obligation to another, while the work that truly belongs to you remains waiting in the background. There comes a point when the unfinished thing asks to become the priority. The path forward may not require a dramatic transformation. It may begin with a single decision to stop postponing what you already know matters. It may begin with a willingness to trust the quiet truth that has been following you through every season. And sometimes that small decision becomes the doorway through which everything else begins to change. You were not made for the endless middle, the place where many things begin and none of them fully resolve. There is something within you that deserves to be brought to completion, and a part of you has known that for a very long time. The invitation remains where it has always been, waiting patiently for the moment you choose to answer it. For a long time, the strongest hours of your day may have been given away to things that genuinely mattered, responsibilities that were real, people you sincerely cared about, and needs that deserved attention. Yet somewhere near the end of every day, the deeper work waited patiently for whatever energy remained. It stood quietly at the edge of your life, while everything else received its portion first. Over time, that arrangement can begin to feel heavier than it looks from the outside. The pull of those responsibilities is powerful because much of it comes wrapped in good intentions. It arrives wearing the language of love, duty, loyalty, and service. Many of those things are worthy, and many of them are true. Yet when the noise settles and you are alone with your own thoughts, you can feel a difference between what you chose to carry and what was placed within you to fulfill. Those two things have never felt quite the same. One feels like obligation, while the other feels like recognition. One asks for your effort. The other awakens something that already belongs to you. Deep inside, there is a knowing that requires no permission and no outside approval. It simply says, "This is mine to do." That recognition is not rooted in ego or self-importance. It comes from truth. It is the moment you stop treating your deeper purpose as something optional and begin honoring it as something essential. A part of you is growing tired of postponing what has been waiting faithfully for your attention. You are allowed to give your energy to the work that matters most. You are allowed to protect the hours needed to build it nurture it, and bring it into form. You are allowed to decline what pulls you away from it, even when those requests come from places you care about. Purpose requires boundaries just as much as it requires devotion. There comes a season when constant availability no longer feels like faithfulness. You begin realizing that saying yes to everything often means saying no to the very thing you were meant to complete. Growth sometimes looks like releasing the need for approval from people who were never assigned responsibility for your path. Their expectations cannot determine what your purpose requires. You are allowed to place your own work first. You are allowed to disappoint certain expectations, if doing so allows you to remain faithful to what has been entrusted to you, and you are allowed to begin before every fear has been settled, trusting that confidence grows through movement rather than waiting. The deeper truth is that your work extends beyond yourself. There are lives that will be touched by what you finish. There are people who need the wisdom, insight, understanding, and perspective that can only emerge from your completed journey. What you carry was shaped through experiences no one else lived exactly as you did. That is why completion matters. Starting is meaningful, but finishing carries a different power. The things you bring all the way through difficulty, uncertainty, and resistance become gifts that reach far beyond your own life. Every time you remain committed when it would be easier to walk away, you strengthen something that was meant to serve others as well as yourself. The story of Moses reveals this beautifully. Standing at the edge of the sea with fear pressing in from every direction, he faced a moment where logic offered little comfort. The people around him saw only obstacles, danger, and impossible circumstances. Yet in that moment, Moses reached for something deeper than strategy. He reached for the certainty that had been formed within him through years of preparation. The wilderness had stripped away everything that did not belong until only the essential remained. When the moment arrived, he was no longer standing on his own confidence. He was standing on the knowledge of what he had been called to do. Even then, his first response to that calling had not been certainty. It had been resistance. He questioned himself, doubted his abilities, and looked for reasons someone else would be more qualified. Like many people who carry a significant purpose, he measured the assignment against his limitations and found himself lacking. Yet the answer he received was never centered on his qualifications. It was centered on the assignment itself. The message was simple. This belongs to you, not because you feel ready, not because you have removed every doubt, but because it was entrusted to you from the beginning. That same truth reaches anyone who has spent years circling around what they know they are meant to do. The question is rarely whether the purpose exists. More often, the struggle comes from accepting that it belongs to you. There comes a point when the argument ends, not because every concern disappears, but because the decision has finally been made. Moses stepped forward before the path was visible. The waters moved after the step was taken, not before. Many of life's most important moments unfold the same way. Clarity often follows commitment rather than preceding it. Perhaps you are standing at a similar threshold now. It may not arrive through dramatic signs or extraordinary circumstances. It may feel like a quiet certainty that has been returning to you for years, waiting patiently beneath every excuse, every delay, and every question about timing. The conversation inside you has lasted long enough. There is an ancient idea that speaks of a person's specific work, the contribution uniquely assigned to their hands. Not a collection of random tasks, but a particular responsibility that belongs to them alone. It is the work that aligns with who they are, what they have endured, what they have learned, and what they have been preparing for all along. Every person carries a piece that contributes to something greater than themselves. When that piece is honored with focus, care, and dedication, it becomes part of a larger purpose that could never be completed by one person alone. What matters is not size, status, or recognition. What matters is faithfulness to the path that was entrusted to you. Your work carries that kind of significance. It is not a vague desire to make a difference or a role that could easily be handed to someone else. It has been shaped by your wilderness years, refined by your struggles, strengthened by your victories, and informed by every lesson you fought to understand. The combination of your gifts, your wounds, and your hard-earned wisdom has prepared you to offer something that only you can bring into the world. There is no replacement for what you carry. No one with a similar story, similar gifts, or similar experiences can step into your place and offer the exact thing you were shaped to give. Your life has formed something unique within you, and the space waiting for that contribution was designed around the dimensions of who you are. Every lesson, every loss, every victory, and every season of becoming has prepared something that belongs specifically to you. You will hear voices telling you there is still time to wait. Some of those voices may even sound reasonable because they speak through practical concerns, responsibilities, and obligations that genuinely matter. Yet beneath all of that, there remains a quieter truth that never leaves. The work does not stop being important simply because other things have become urgent. Urgency and importance are rarely the same thing. Many demands will compete for your attention, but not all of them belong to your path. If your deeper work remains unfinished, it does not mean you have failed. It means the story is still unfolding, and what has been placed within you is still moving toward completion. A promise in motion requires movement, not the movement of someday, not the movement that waits for every condition to become perfect, but the movement available right now. Even the smallest step carries power when it is taken in the direction of what truly matters. Progress begins the moment you stop postponing what your heart has known all along. The first step is rarely elegant. It may feel uncertain, awkward, or incomplete. Yet many of the most important things in life reveal themselves only after movement begins. The path often appears as you walk it, and clarity frequently follows action rather than preceding it. There is a freedom waiting on the other side of that decision. It is not freedom from responsibility or from the complexities of life. It is the freedom that comes when you stop arguing with your own purpose. It is the peace of someone who has chosen their path and no longer spends their energy negotiating with it. That freedom is not something you feel first and then act upon. More often it arrives because you acted. The decision comes before the confidence. The commitment comes before the certainty. When you choose the work, something inside you begins to settle into place. What you have been called to complete is not a burden placed upon your shoulders. In many ways, it is the relief your soul has been seeking. The exhaustion has never come from the work itself. It has come from carrying the weight of something unfinished for far longer than it was meant to remain unfinished. There is a deep kind of rest that emerges when your life begins moving in alignment with what you were created to do. Not rest from effort, but rest from inner conflict. The energy that once pulled in opposing directions begins moving together. What you believe, what you value, and what you do begin pointing toward the same destination. The decision before you is larger than organizing your schedule or adjusting your priorities. It is an act of trust. It is the moment you choose to believe that what was placed inside you arrived with everything necessary for its fulfillment. It is the recognition that the years behind you were not detours, but preparation, building something layer by layer long before you understood what it was becoming. If you have spent years pouring yourself into everything except the thing that matters most, hear this clearly. You have not missed your opportunity. The invitation remains exactly where it has always been. The door is still open, and the season for beginning has not passed you by. The people who eventually fulfill their calling rarely look different from everyone else at the moment they begin. What separates them is often a simple decision. One ordinary day, they stop bargaining with the assignment. They stop waiting for a future version of themselves to take responsibility for what belongs to them now. Think of a craftsman working on a single piece of a larger structure. They do not attempt to build everything at once. They give their full attention to the portion entrusted to them. Piece by piece, their contribution joins with the contributions of others until something greater emerges. Your work carries that same significance. There is a place in the world that holds the shape of your understanding, your perspective, and your experience. The wisdom that grew from your wounds, the insight that emerged from your wilderness years, and the strength developed through every challenge. all belong to that place. What you carry has value because it was forged through a journey no one else lived exactly as you did. The seasons that tried to silence you have also shaped your voice. The struggles that once seemed meaningless have become part of the language through which you will help others understand their own journey. Every chapter contributed something essential. Nothing was wasted. Many people spend years sensing what they are meant to do while repeatedly stepping away when the work becomes demanding. They begin with sincerity, return with determination, and prepare with care, yet something causes them to stop whenever they approach the deepest part of the assignment. The challenge is often not a lack of talent or commitment. It is the belief that they are somehow the wrong person for the work. Eventually, however, a different realization arrives. The assignment was never given by mistake. The delays, the doubts, and the closed doors were never proof of disqualification. They were part of the process that shaped the person capable of carrying the responsibility. You do not need perfect certainty before moving forward. You only need enough willingness to begin. Let the work itself reveal what has been true all along. Let the experience of showing up teach you what endless analysis never could. Hold this truth quietly within yourself. You were given a specific work to do. It belongs to your hands, your voice, your experience, and your journey. You do not need to postpone it any longer. Choose the work. Choose it in whatever form is available today. Protect the time it requires. Return to it when distractions pull at your attention, and allow yourself to become faithful to it, one step at a time. Choose to complete what you came here to complete. Trust this deeply. Whatever placed that work inside you also placed within you the capacity to carry it. Not every skill you imagine you should have, not every condition you wish were different, but everything the work itself truly requires. You have spent years believing readiness was waiting somewhere ahead of you, when much of what was needed was already being formed through the life you have lived. The preparation was real, and it has been unfolding far longer than you realized. You are not being asked to become a different person before you begin. You are being invited to trust the person those years have already shaped. The wilderness gave you something valuable. The waiting taught you something. The challenges, the disappointments, and the lessons that seemed disconnected at the time were all contributing to qualities that your purpose will eventually draw upon. If you have carried moments of doubt, mental heaviness, or the feeling that you should be further along than you are, let that become a reason to move closer to your work rather than further away from it. Sometimes the greatest shift begins when you stop measuring yourself against an imagined version of who you think you need to be. The work is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for your willingness. If something in this message reached the place where your deeper purpose lives, there is something simple you can do right now. Leave a word in the comments, not a detailed explanation, not a defense of your dream, and not something shaped to satisfy the opinions of others. Just the name, a single word or phrase that most honestly reflects the work you know has been calling you. There is power in naming what matters. The moment something is named, it begins moving from possibility into commitment. It becomes something you are willing to acknowledge rather than something hidden away in the background of your life. Recognition is often the first step toward completion. There may also be someone you know who carries this same quiet longing, someone who appears busy, capable, and productive on the outside, while privately feeling that an important part of their life remains unfinished. They may be carrying the weight of a purpose that has been waiting patiently beneath the surface of everything else. Share this message with them, not simply as content to consume, but as a reminder that they are not alone in what they are feeling. Sometimes one person recognizing another can become the encouragement needed to begin again. Sometimes being seen is enough to help someone take the next step toward what they already know they must do. If these are the kinds of conversations that speak to you, the ones willing to sit honestly with purpose, responsibility, growth, and the cost of becoming who you are meant to be, then continue returning to them. Stay close to the ideas that remind you of what matters. Keep choosing the voices that call you toward your deeper work rather than away from it. The work is real. The calling is real. The season for waiting on a distant someday has run its course. What matters now is the thing that has been written into your life from the beginning. Honor it. Stay with it. Complete it. Begin.